Good evening, everyone. As president of Barnard College, I want to thank you for taking the time tonight to join us for this webinar. The difficult decision last week to continue with distance learning through the fall semester really does represent a significant change of course for all of us. No doubt it was a surprise to many of you, an unwelcome one, I'm sure. So I want to spend a little time tonight discussing how we came to this decision to make sure you're clear, you have an understanding of the process that we went through and why we must delay our return to campus. I also want to look forward to the days and weeks ahead, and I want to answer your questions. Many of you already entered questions in the form through the webinar link, and you can continue to do so through the rest of this webinar. We'll try to get to as many as we can, and we'll make sure we have a good sampling of what you're asking. I'm joined tonight by our provost, Linda Bell, and Leslie Greenidge, our dean of the college. Provost Bell will talk a little bit later about the academic opportunities and what you can expect from the fall. And Dean Greenidge can help with some of the details around student life, how we're working on building community, especially for our first years, and what students can expect and prepare for in the coming days and weeks ahead. Before we go any further, though, I really want to acknowledge what I've heard from many of you and what I'm feeling, what I know Provost Bell and Dean Greenidge, in fact, all our faculty and staff are feeling and experiencing right now. Postponing a return to campus is deeply disappointing. There's really no other words to describe it. At a time when so much else has been taken away from us, it can feel really heartbreaking. Students, you and your families have already put so much into this. For first years, you decided to apply to Barnard. You got in, you made preparations to come. And now, through no fault of your own, that's being taken away from you in a way in terms of some of you coming to campus. That's true too of our faculty and staff. They've done extraordinary work over the last 6 months and made extraordinary sacrifices with one goal: to get you safely back to campus. And they succeeded at their part. They came up with a plan that had met our goals. But in the end, forces beyond any of our control have really asked and mandated that we take a temporary pause in what we're doing. I can't change the feelings you have, and I don't want to diminish them. The disappointment is real, and that's part of what we all need to work through as individuals and also as a Barnard community. But I also think that we can give you some reasons for hope, some excitement about what lies ahead, and we'll have more about that in a few minutes. But first, many of you asked for details about our decision-making process and the decision we announced last week and the criteria of the timing. In my email communications, I mentioned really two things regarding the context of the pandemic. The first is nationally. Since we made the announcement in early July that we would bring a part of our student body back to campus, things changed. Cases went up by over 2 million, and many of the people who were getting COVID-19 were young people, college students like yourself. I also mentioned a local context. As things changed around the country, so did what was happening in New York State. Quarantine regulations were put in place, but the number of states that were on it continued to grow. Throughout July, the requirement that each student quarantine from a state with a high number of cases with their own bedroom and bathroom was something we knew we would struggle with on Barnard's campus. We just didn't have the resources to do it. So we worked with the state government, with city officials to try and get the requirement on college campuses changed. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. And so as the states continued to grow, as by last week, the number of students who would have to quarantine was remarkably high, in early August, we decided that we would help students with the state's quarantine requirement by giving them suggestions about quarantining off campus. It wasn't perfect. We were worried about students being able to quarantine on their own. We're also concerned about the services we would be able to provide. But we forged ahead in the hopes that many students could make those arrangements and simply work through the state mandates. After we announced in early August the quarantine requirements that the state had, we heard from hundreds of families who were really having trouble making those arrangements. We also heard about expectations for services for first years and sophomores who would be in New York City on their own. We knew we couldn't provide the services at the level and detail as you wanted. This brings us to the week of August 10th. Not only were we hearing from parents, but we were starting to see what was happening on other campuses. There was a high school in Georgia. There were fraternities and sororities around the country. And many of our Ivy Plus peers were rethinking their plans. Throughout the week, I had conversations with President Bollinger. I continued to talk to our medical experts at Columbia University Irving Medical Center. And it really became clear that by the end of last week, we just couldn't bring you back to campus. In the end, it came down to two kinds of risks: the risk to your health and the risk to your education. There was no one moment when all of this flipped. However, converging evidence from so many sources, the difficulty of the quarantine, the fact that we were starting to see what was happening on other college campuses, really made us reevaluate those risks. So I mentioned two risks: a risk to your health and a risk to your education. You all understand the health risks. We could have a long debate about how to calculate those risks, about how to compare them to risks to our lives. Believe me, we have. We've done that every day. But in the end, it came down to a commitment I made to prioritize health and wellness above all else. It's the most important commitment of all, and one that I won't compromise on. The other risk, in addition to your health, is a risk to education, which we've always been balancing. I have confidence, every confidence, that Barnard can offer an outstanding education in person. I also have confidence that Barnard can offer an outstanding education and community remotely. Yes, it will be different, but through our faculty, our programming, and by connecting our fellow students to alumni in their areas, it will be special, it will be unique. The one option that would significantly damage your learning, that I came down to a decision, was that interrupting it by, once the semester was underway, isolating or displacing you, then asking you to try and refocus, and with the ensuing distractions and disruption. In the recent weeks, it became clear that an interruption like this was not only increasingly possible, it was actually very likely. And ever since we've made our announcement last week, we've watched as institution after institution has reversed course, having brought students to campus, then suffered from significant outbreaks of COVID-19, and many sending students home. As all this happened the week of August 10th, in parallel with Columbia, we came to a hard decision. The decision was made last Thursday. I met with my board last Friday morning, and the letter was sent out to you Friday afternoon. The timing wasn't great. We totally acknowledge that. The last day that bills were due, but we immediately increased the time and extended our deadline and took care of any late fees. So as important as this coming semester is, we must continue to focus on the long-term success. The education you started long before the pandemic, and the one that will continue long after and beyond this crisis. To allow you to succeed, we must help you stay strong, focused, and on learning. We must ensure, too, that Barnard remains strong, that you get the maximum benefit of what our outstanding faculty have to offer and what you have to offer each other, not just now, but well into the future. Even if the fall semester of remote learning feels like a setback, it's actually the shortest, most effective path towards where we want to go. I have full confidence that taking this step now allows us to keep moving and increases the chance that we'll have students back on campus safely as soon as possible. It really was the right decision in that way. But before I move on to some of the questions and we look forward to what we're going to offer with Provost Bell and Dean Greenidge, I want to take a moment to talk about finances. As you know, the onset of the pandemic and our quick shift to remote learning in the spring had sharp pressures on Barnard's finances. We also made many investments over the summer to create what we hoped would be a safe and clean environment in the fall. I do want to correct one misconception, and that's that some of the comments I've received suggest that it would be advantageous for Barnard, we'd save money by going remote. The opposite is true. We still have the same facilities to maintain, whether we can use them or not. We still have to support our outstanding faculty and staff who, if anything, have a greater burden on them now. Equally important, I also understand that the burden this pandemic has put on so many of you and your families. I know the college is a significant investment in the best of times and may represent a real sacrifice now. So what can we do in the face of that? To begin with, as you know, we're not charging room and board, and by now students will have received their updated bill and they can find updated financial award letters tomorrow. We've also reduced the comprehensive fee, knowing that even though you will have access to libraries and primary care and firming counseling, that it won't be the same kind of programming. On our side, we continue to make sacrifices. Early in the summer, myself and all of my senior team took a significant pay cut. We furloughed over 100 of our staff, and many roles and employees who continue to be on the college's support will get health insurance even if they're not working full-time. With the resources that we do have, Barnard will do what it always does. We do a whole lot with not very much. We don't have the kind of endowment that other Ivy Plus schools have, but we use our resources wisely. I know some of you have asked for a tuition discount as a symbol that the school understands your predicament, understands the decision to change was disappointing. We hear you. However, rather than making a cut across the board, we've chosen a different path to help those most in need. We've put several $1 million into alleviating the summer work contribution for students on financial aid. We are helping those who need laptops, books, desks, noise-canceling headphones to learn throughout the fall semester. And for those students where Barnard is their only home, students who have been abused or have no home to go to, we're ensuring that they have housing and support they need to live off campus. I want to go back to this notion of our finances and what we do, because unlike so many of our Ivy Plus peers, Barnard wasn't founded on an endowment. We were founded on an idea that women deserve the same education as men. Over the last several years, we have raised record numbers of dollars, but that doesn't make up for the 100+ years that we didn't have an endowment, that we didn't push in this way. I'm charged now with balancing the short-term excellence and desires of our students with the long-term stability of the college, something that helps all of us. We make decisions constantly about how to spend our limited funds. We have trade-offs. In this case, we've made the decision, in line with our ideology, that we would help those who need it most. And what I mean by this, to be very clear, is that we're helping to secure housing at Columbia for students with no homes, with abusive homes and similar situations that indicate they need help. We're making learning possible, as I mentioned before, and our decision to go remote, we honored all the off-campus financial aid that we had promised juniors and seniors, and we will ensure that the institution that you're part of is strong long into the future. I know these are disappointing times. I know many of you wish you could be on campus, but I want to assure you that what we're doing now for Barnard and into the future will make you proud. I'd now like to turn it over to Provost Linda Bell to talk a little bit about the academics. We'll then hear from Dean Greenidge, and finally we'll answer some of your other questions. Provost Bell?
Thank you, President Beilock. President Beilock is absolutely correct that we were extraordinarily excited about the idea of having students back on campus and in our classrooms. But the faculty also knew that the content that was to be delivered in any case was either going to be remote or in some form hybrid. And therefore, they knew that they had to work hard to improve delivery and to redirect content. To the faculty, to President Beilock, to Dean Greenidge, to myself, it is all about your education. This semester will be different. It is very different than when we stopped abruptly in March. So much work has been done, much innovation in pedagogy and curriculum, as well as technological updates to our spaces. There's a lot to talk about. I have very limited time, so let me just give you some of the highlights about the updates to the academic program. We are, first of all, very excited about the changes to the first year curriculum. All first year writing and first year seminar classes will have a new component of lectures devoted to what we're calling the big problems of 2020. And these sections will meet in conjunction with the lectures, and students will work on group projects that link the lectures to their coursework. And those projects will be archived for purposes of posterity, such that 10 years from now, 20 years from now, students will be able to see the work that was done during this very difficult and challenging time. Second, we have new courses, new classes, new content, some of it devoted to big problems, dealing with issues related to the pandemic, related to issues of structural racism and other big problems that we're facing now. We have immersive classes. 30% of all our classes will be taught in this new immersive format, which will give students the opportunity to kind of mix it up a little bit in terms of pedagogy, remote pedagogy. And there's lots of reasons why we think that that will be very advantageous to students. Faculty have been engaged all summer in redesigning their courses for online learning. Working with the Center for Engaged Pedagogy, I'll mention just a few of the activities. There was a virtual curricular design institute that was held to help faculty to adapt their courses for immersive formats and online modalities. 84 faculty signed up to participate, and faculty reviewed student survey responses, wrote documents around what you had said about your spring learning, created effective online course designs and teaching strategies to address these concerns about remote learning. There was a summer pedagogy symposium for Barnard faculty. The symposium included 42 sessions, occurred over an intensive week, with topics including online student engagement, addressing racism in the classroom, creating inclusive and accessible learning experiencing, utilizing digital tools from Zoom Basics to social annotation tools, and much more. More than 175 faculty out of our total of around 200 faculty participated in this summer pedagogy symposium. We held a digital summer institute. We've had consultations and workshops all summer long with the Center for Engaged Pedagogy and with some of our pedagogy experts here and also at Columbia. We've done work in the classrooms as well. Hardware upgrades to all of our classrooms. We've created teaching studios so that faculty will be able to teach in those studios to you with multiple monitors that will display documents, a monitor that will simultaneously display a blackboard or a whiteboard, and that will focus on the instructor as well. They'll have multiple screens so they can see their documents and they can see you. We're converting classrooms and allowing faculty to teach in those classrooms so that laboratory instruction can go on with a faculty member in the lab showing you how to conduct that experiment. And we'll have faculty in classrooms that will have the capability to work well from a microphone perspective, amplifying voice correctly, and will allow a faculty member to display slides and materials on the blackboard or whiteboard at the same time. Along with all of this, we knew that we needed to help advise our students. And so we've created a really robust program of advising students this summer. You should have been contacted about Launch Week. It was a fabulous week of learning about new courses at the departmental level. Sophomores were contacted individually by our summer advisors. And this week, summer advisors will be reaching out to all first year students to help them think about the semester ahead, to think about their course content, and to think about what they want to get out of this semester. Libraries will be functioning. Throughout the fall semester, Barnard Library will be providing remote services, which will enhance your learning experience. There'll be paging, and for students who are who are near campus, there'll be pickup services. They'll scan materials and make them available by electronically for you. And there will be consultations available with each of our academic librarians to help you in your kind of research pursuits or course-related activities. Our academic centers will be open and running remotely, and they'll also provide really neat programming and all kinds of opportunities for you. And then finally, let me talk about a little bit about a brand new initiative called Third Space at Barnard. This is an exciting new co-curricular initiative collaboratively led by Barnard's Athena Center for Leadership, by the Office of the Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and by the Center for Engaged Pedagogy. And it consists of two parts. Part one is a virtual event. We're calling it Spark. And in this event, students will be introduced to the work of change makers, reimagining 3 topics: 1, community safety; 2, economic safety; and 3, education. And this is open to everyone, to students, to faculty, to staff, to alumni, to the general public. This will launch on September 25th. Part 2, we're calling Build. Build will allow up to 100 students who will be selected to participate in what we're calling Build Circles. And these circles will be made up of 8 to 10 students with all different interests, majors, class years, guided by skilled facilitators with an expertise in a related area. These Build Circles will meet monthly as support and as collaboration for groups while they're figuring out what they want to do, linking to their local communities. The Third Space at website has wonderful FAQs, and I suggest if you haven't, you take a look at that. This is just a sampling of all that there will be this fall. We are extremely excited to renew our teaching, and we can't wait to welcome you all to your fall schedules. And now I think I'll turn it over to the Dean of the College, Dean Greenwich.
Thank you, Provost Bell, and good evening, everybody. I want to start off by just echoing what President Beilock and Provost Bell said about our disappointment that we are not able to, or that we have to continue with remote instruction for the fall. But I'd like to also underscore that it was a hard decision, but the right decision. I'll just spend a little bit of time with you all this evening, detailing what student life will look like this fall, and also just touching on a little bit about what we need you to do in the days and weeks ahead to prepare for the fall semester. First, we know how important organizational involvement is to your experience and development as college students. The Department of Student Life will host a virtual activities fair. We're anticipating that it'll be the first week of class, and it will be a multi-evening event, allowing clubs and organizations with particular themes to have their own night, which will give you all the opportunity to learn about as many organizations as possible. So please keep an eye out for that information. We anticipate it will start September 9th, and probably go until the 11th. We will also maintain our robust network of student support services. The class deans have been active this summer, meeting one-on-one with many of you as well as in groups, and they remain available virtually throughout the semester to help address your needs and concerns. They're available now if you need them. You all should be receiving, I think you are, because the open rate is really good on the Barnard 411 newsletters. In those newsletters, there's usually a message from your particular class dean where you can get information about things that are happening from them. They all also maintain blogs, and that's a great place, a great source of information, and you can learn more about how you meet with them through their blogs or through the 411 newsletter. Mental and physical health is incredibly important. It doesn't matter where you are. So to that end, I want to make sure you know that our Rosemary Furman Counseling Center will provide remote counseling services throughout the semester and or help get you situated with a provider wherever you are. Primary care health service will be available for telehealth, and for students who are living locally in New York City, by appointment. So you will have to call them first, but we will have providers on the ground on campus. And for all of you, if you have Barnard's student health insurance, it will work wherever you are. As many of you know, Barnard has a number of special rituals and events that happen in the fall semester. And we're thinking through how we still deliver those. The first that I want to mention is Convocation, which is scheduled for September 17th. We look forward to having you join us virtually. You'll hear from President Beilock, Provost Bell, I believe you'll hear from a faculty member, myself, and also a special guest. And Convocation is where we launch and set the tone for the academic year. We're very much looking forward to the fact that families can join us at Convocation this year as well. Other special events that happen in the fall, we are thinking through how we might deliver them. Two that immediately come to mind are Big Sub, where we literally eat a big sandwich together, and Midnight Breakfast, where students get to enjoy breakfast served very late at night by administrators, including the three of us who are on this call, President Beilock and Provost Bell. We're figuring out how we might be able to deliver these special traditions virtually. And I promise you that if we are doing midnight breakfast, I will be on this computer eating a bowl of cereal or an equally delicious breakfast treat with you. So I look forward to joining you all in December for that. I'd like to address our new students quickly. You all should have received yesterday a newsletter from the Department of Student Life, the Nsop Newsletter. Nsop is the new student orientation program. In that newsletter, it shared that you'll get your orientation group soon. You'll hear from your orientation leaders, and that the schedule will be available next week. Just to make sure you all know, everything about Nsop will be offered online. Much of it will be recorded. There are some mandatory programs that you must attend, but there are also lots of optional programs, some just for Barnard students, some for Barnard and Columbia students together, that we hope that you'll attend so that you can learn more about what the college has to offer, but also begin to make new friends. In that newsletter, we also asked you all to fill out a form giving us the address of where you are right now. Please do that. We want to make sure that we can send you a special gift. And for students who are in international destinations, we've asked for your address in 2 different ways to make sure that we get it right. So please fill out that form. And if you don't quite know where you'll be yet, you probably have until about the middle of next week to get us that information. I'll also touch on just other ways that we hope to build community throughout this semester. It's really important that we help our new students to Barnard build community, but also that our continuing students get to maintain community and the great relationships that they've already forged since they've been here. So there are lots of ways we'll do this, but I'll talk about 2 that are directly related to our residential living. Any new student who had a housing assignment prior to July 20th, we'll have a one-on-one meeting with our graduate hall directors over the first few weeks of the semester. This is just an opportunity to talk with somebody directly about what you're hoping to get out of Barnard and your experience, and really to make a connection with them. And then any of our continuing students who had a housing assignment can opt in to have one of those meetings as well. And our Department of Residential Life will offer virtual programs every week to help students build community virtually, the same type of community that we would have helped you build residentially in person. We've also heard from a lot of you about establishing relationships with people who might be in whatever region you're in. Our development and alumni relations team is creating something called Alumni Circles. It doesn't matter if you're wherever you are in the country or all over the world, but for students who are interested in building relationships with members of the Barnard family, Alumni Circles might be something that's appealing to you. We'll start by coordinating regional circles with our local alumni clubs, and we will include circles for students living in New York City, even if their home residence isn't in New York City. And as the semester goes on, we hope to have circles based on career interests, academic interests, and some extracurricular interests as well. Some of those may be connected with Beyond Barnard or the Athena Center, but we'll share information once it's finalized. And for our new students, also in the Nsop newsletter yesterday, there's an opportunity for you to indicate that you might have interest in getting plugged into those alumni circles. So please complete that too, so we know where you are and how to connect with you. I'm sure all of you have heard about Beyond Barnard, which is our holistic, comprehensive approach to connecting your Barnard education with life after graduation. It's a one-stop shop to support both students and alumni as they pursue their individual paths to success. Since we went remote in March, the Beyond Barnard team has held over 1,000 advising appointments with students and alumni. This summer, they hosted a summer colloquium, which had about 75 virtual events on a range of topics. Many of those were recorded. You can find them on the Beyond Barnard YouTube channel. They also launched a Beyond mentoring platform where students can apply to projects that are posted by alumni and parents that are short-term virtual experiences that can be completed remotely. And our Beyond Barnard team is planning to continue their regular event series. So Career Insights, which features weekly panel discussions on a range of career topics, Mentors in Residence, which allows you to have weekly virtual visits, with distinguished alumni, and also, of course, virtual on-campus interviews conducted by employers. Before I end, I also want to talk about a new initiative that I think most of our students have heard of. I'm really proud to talk about Access Barnard, which launches a new vision and approach to supporting students who identify as first generation and or low income and or international. Access Barnard support will be tailored to the diversity of identities represented within those groups. We will provide an expanded peer mentoring program. We'll enhance existing mentoring and network experiences. And one of our initiatives that we're really excited about in this first semester is launching a single application process for students to find supplementary support for the range of needs that you may have to support your academic experiences. The Supplementary Academic Support Application, as we're calling it, is open now online on the Access Barnard website. And as President Beilock was mentioning earlier, this is where you would go if you need noise canceling headphones because you live in a home full of people, or maybe you need better Wi-Fi connectivity. The ways that we can support you to be successful academically, we want to try. So please fill out that form so we know what it is you need and how we may be able to assist. Finally, I just want to let all of our new students know that next week, we will host another webinar with people in my division, the Dean of the College Division, and some other guests from other areas of the college to really delve deeper into what student life will look like. So you really get to meet some of the fantastic people who are doing the work behind the scenes that I get to talk to you about and brag to you about. We'll discuss topics like orientation and registration, and also just some nuts and bolts, like how you get your IDs as a first year student. So please plan on joining us. We will share the date and time shortly. I'm working with that group of people to identify when it is, but I expect that it'll be mid to late next week. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to President Beilock.
Thank you, Dean Greenidge. I'd like to now ask Provost Bell to come on as well. And we have many questions and we'll try and get to as many as possible. A number of people have asked different questions, so I'll try and summarize as well. The first one is about pass-fail, and will the fall semester be pass-fail? And if not, how can we ensure equity among students? I'd love to turn that over to Dean Greenidge.
Sure. Absolutely. So this is a really great opportunity for students to, I will say, choose your adventure. It's the student's choice. This semester won't count towards the college's maximum of courses taken pass-fail. So hypothetically, a student could elect to take all of their non-major classes pass-fail without any impact on their ability to opt for pass-fail in subsequent semesters.
So this question is really for Provost Bell, and with Barnard's focus on the sciences, how will science labs be conducted remotely? Linda, I think you're on mute.
Thank you. This is a tough one, obviously. It would be great if we were back and able to teach in our labs. But our faculty have been, like I said before, working really hard. And so, first of all our labs have been equipped with digital technologies that will enable faculty to be in the labs perform experiments with some assistance as needed. And so that will be an enhanced experience to begin with. Secondly, by department, departments have been working on unique strategies, so it's a very complex question to answer. Chemistry has been meeting, and depending on whether it's a beginning course in chemistry, an intermediate course in chemistry, or an advanced lab in chemistry, the techniques that they're employing will be different. We're employing standard techniques of flipped classrooms in some measure to achieve the desired results of the laboratories. I can tell you that in physics and astronomy, in one of the intermediate labs, a faculty member intends to send home all kinds of lab experiment setups to students so that students, wherever they are, will have the requisite materials necessary. He will conduct the lab in the laboratory, and he will work through with students, on Zoom, doing their requisite work as well. So there's a whole range of solutions that departments have made and taken, and it's really exciting and it's really interesting. And I think we're going to be developing kind of new ways of thinking of teaching in our labs as well through this process. I personally am really excited about it.
Yeah, thank you. So we have a question about whether there are options now for students who don't want to participate in remote learning this semester. And so as we have said, rising sophomores, juniors, and seniors can take a leave if they choose and be fully refunded. We have been transparent, however, that depending on leave requests and size of next year's class, students may not have their first choice granted in terms of when they return. And we just want to be clear here because there are implications for class size, housing, financial aid, budget in subsequent years, but students have that option and are able to do that. Along with Columbia, we did not extend the defer deadlines for first years past their original date. And I know this decision wasn't what everyone would have wanted, but we do think it's a decision that is for the good of the college. So I have another question. Will students living off campus have access to the libraries, health center? Dean Greenidge, could you answer that?
I can. So students who are living off campus will have access to Columbia's libraries. They'll have access to Columbia's campus and to Barnard's remote library. Our librarians are still working, and we are prepared and interested to help you be successful academically, but physically they'll be able to go to Columbia's libraries. In terms of health services, I did say this before, I might have been speaking a little too fast. Primary care health service is open, but students have to call first to make an appointment. So you'd call and do a telehealth visit, and if the providers determine that you should come in, then they'll work with you to have access to come to campus, but we will be available to support you, support your physical health needs.
And I know Furman Counseling Center will start having listening hours next week and students can schedule appointments. Is that right?
Yes, thank you. I meant to say that earlier. So Furman Counseling Center will hold 2 listening sessions next week, Tuesday and Thursday. Both of them are at 3 o'clock. Just an opportunity for students to come together in community and maybe talk about how they're feeling right now, particularly given our change in the semester. And students can also start scheduling appointments with counselors next Monday.
So we have another question. Why is tuition the same for remote and in-person learning? And I'll answer this. And I thank you for asking this. I addressed it earlier, and I think it's worth addressing again. Let me start with our faculty. Barnard has an absolutely outstanding faculty who are among the best scholars in their field and also devoted to teaching students. As you know, our faculty are all tenured at Barnard and Columbia, but really are at Barnard because of the focus on undergrad. Their expertise, their teaching ability, their dedication are the same whatever medium they're in. The curriculum also, you've heard me talk about, is really tailored to a distinct Barnard experience and the mission of providing a rigorous education and empowering women on the art of education, challenging norms, our big problems course. We're going to have some amazing lectures in it. That distinct value doesn't change regardless of method of delivery. And finally, there is, as we talk about this, a transparency here in terms of what we simply can afford. A student's tuition does not cover even the entire cost of her education at Barnard. In fact, it's only about 80%. The rest we make up for in philanthropy and other sources. And we really made a decision that rather than take a deduction across the board, we would focus our resources, our added resources, on the most needy students. I know that not everyone agrees with that, but really it's fulfilling a commitment to the students now and to the college long term. And we really are excited about what we're going to be able to offer. Okay, so I have another question. What kind of support will Barnard offer to students who are housing insecure or need special housing needs? And I'm going to ask Dean Greenidge to speak to this.
Thank you. So in President Beilock's email last Friday, we included a link to an application for students who are experiencing extreme housing needs. And as President Beilock said earlier, this might be students for whom Barnard is their only home, or students who have some really serious things going on in the household. We're currently reviewing those applications. I know many of you are anxious to know what kind of support you will get. We're working on that, hope to be in touch with you tomorrow. I've gotten a lot of emails from you all today. So if you're out there and I haven't responded to your email yet, we got your application and we'll hopefully be able to let you know by tomorrow. But we are finding other locations, housing locations for students who fall into these very particular categories of extenuating circumstances.
So we have a question about work study and how that will take place even though students are off campus. Dean Greenidge, would you speak to that?
Yeah, so I know we all know how important work study jobs are for students, not just because of the financial support that they provide, but also the skills that students develop in these jobs. Remote opportunities will be available for students. Our Beyond Barnard team has been collaborating with staff and faculty to create new substantive remote positions to ensure that students have meaningful work opportunities. So if you log into Handshake, I don't know why the name of the system just escaped me. You should see positions there, but our Beyond Barnard team is actively working with faculty and staff to create jobs or think through ways that we can help students secure work for this semester.
Great. And we have a question about COVID-19 testing for students living near campus. And given that our students will be able to use Columbia resources, given what we're seeing happen at other campuses, we've heard from a number of you. So I will announce now that we will be doing COVID testing on a regular basis for students living off campus. We will have a weekly testing for students. More information will be available soon. Dean Greenidge, I know you're about to send out a semester contingency form to all students. We'll need our off-campus students to fill this out so that we can notify you about that weekly testing. This is asymptomatic testing, so just testing for people who are not feeling sick. Anyone who is feeling sick can call and go to primary care health services. They'll help you deal with whatever you need, but this will just be a weekly asymptomatic testing so that we can understand what's happening in the population of students living near campus, and we can help you. And this will, of course, we will be paying for this.
May I speak about the contingency form briefly?
Of course.
So
Yeah.
we've asked all students to complete it. If you haven't completed it, we're going to ask you to complete it. It doesn't matter if you're living locally in New York City. It's really important that we just have a better sense of where you are and what your needs are. We'll send a reminder out tomorrow if you haven't done it. If you have done it and you now need to change your information, you can log back into that portal. I also want to correct myself. I said Handshake as the system where you would go to apply for jobs. That's an old system from an old job that I don't have anymore. You can log into Barnard Works. So I apologize to my Beyond Barnard colleagues for sending students down a rabbit hole that doesn't exist here.
I think Handshake is still the underlying system, but
hopefully so I'm not totally wrong, but Barnard Works. Don't look for Handshake. It's not going to work for you.
All right. So we have another question about living on an apartment near campus. My daughter will be living there. how are the safety measures changing as a result of going remote? And the answer is they're not. We still have our officers stationed around Barnard's campus. We announced a few weeks ago a new VIA service where students will be able to use a code allowing them a complimentary ride share. And of course, students are automatically enrolled in Barnard's alert system. They should opt into Columbia's alert system as well. We've always been suggesting that in the last few years. And we will work to maintain the same level of support that we always do for students on and around campus. So I have a question about shopping period. How will the shopping period work virtually in Provostville? I'm wondering if you can take that.
Sure. Shopping period will work virtually by faculty will create an accessible Zoom link that all students can sign up for. Once students sign up, they'll have the opportunity to join the Zoom class. That Zoom link will expire for non-registered students at the end of the shopping period. So the technology will be, there'll be information that will be made available to students, but the same deadlines will apply, the same shopping period will apply, and the same access will be enforced.
Provost Bell, could you also speak to how faculty are adapting their teaching, especially for students living on the West Coast or maybe living abroad in terms of time zones? I know that's a question students often ask.
Yes, so already some faculty have created special sections of classes where there's a large number, like if it's an introductory class, they've created sections that would be more amenable to people on the West Coast or to people abroad in other countries. But what they're prepared to do is to look at their final registration lists. So they have a set of preliminary registrations now. They'll be a little bit more complete after transfers register, and then they'll be fully complete after drop add period is over in the first couple of weeks. So once those registration lists are finalized, faculty will work individually with students in all their classes to make arrangements for students who can't join the class synchronously.
And really on the line of supporting students, what about students who have learning challenges? Dean Greenidge, could you talk a little bit about our Center for Accessibility Resources and Disability Services cards and what they're working on?
Absolutely. So many of you are familiar with CARDS. If you're not, CARDS is our Center for Accessibility Resources and Disability Services. It's the college's focal point for meeting the needs of community members, students, faculty, and staff who may have some type of disability. That can be a temporary or permanent disability, a visible or invisible disability. CARDS provides a variety of individualized support services for students who have registered with them. So this could mean obtaining specialized equipment because there's a visual impairment or a hearing impairment, helping provide note takers for classes. Sometimes there's accommodations within one's housing assignments. Students with disabilities are encouraged to register with CARDS so that they can get the support they need. And even if you're not sure that you need accommodations, you can reach out to that staff and just talk with them and learn more about what might be available with you. That registration is completely confidential. And you can go to the CARDS website for specific FAQs about fall 2020 and the kinds of support that's available remotely. I'll also say that the CARDS staff has been working incredibly well with our academic affairs colleagues and faculty to help support students, particularly in this virtual learning environment. So we are ready.
So Dean Greenidge, continuing with questions for you. I know that some students, especially students new to Barnard, are asking questions about creating cohorts or social groups, especially among first years. What are we going to do now that they're not in the residence halls to help enable that?
Sure. So our Res Life team will create virtual programs for students. These are all opt-in, but virtual programs for students to build community with each other. I think they're going to do it based off of where somebody would have been assigned in the residence hall. So you'll still get to know the people who would have been on your floor. And I'd also mention the Alumni Circles. So together with Student Life, our development and alumni relations team we're gathering information about where people are. So we're not just basing it based off of your home address, but where you are at this time to help you connect with other students and alumni in your region, to just network and build relationships virtually or where you choose to and where you can appropriately social distanced, physically distanced.
So on the topic of first years and new students, since we have a question about, since they didn't get to live on campus in the fall, will they get special consideration for the spring? And I'll take that. And we certainly appreciate the importance of getting our first years on campus and our new students on campus. In fact, it's one of the reasons we went to 3 semesters, so that we'll have a fall, spring, and summer term where we hope students will have the adequate opportunity to be on campus. In terms of housing for the spring and the summer, we know that many juniors and seniors, at least in the spring, are living off campus, which does open up lots of options for our first and second years. And we'll have more information about that in the coming weeks, and including how you can register for that. We also know that there'll be opportunities for the summer term as well. And for seniors who would like to delay their graduation from May into the early summer periods, they can take classes during the summer as well. We're looking to try and have a special graduation period, I believe Provost Bell, right in June or July, so that seniors who want to take summer classes can do that as well.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, we're working on a special June graduation.
Okay, so there's a question about whether there's a final list of fall courses, and where is that? Provost Bell, can you tell us where students can find information about all the fall courses?
Yeah, I mean, all the fall classes should be up and available to students on the directory of classes at Columbia University. So we share the directory of classes with students, and you know that everything has been completely updated and we're all ready to go. Okay. And that includes both the immersive fall A classes and the fall B classes, as well as the semester long classes.
So Dean Greenidge, we have a question from a parent about a daughter who will be living off campus and how primary care health services can support them if they get sick.
So if you are living off campus and you get sick, you can call primary care health services and do a telehealth appointment with one of the providers. Depending on exactly what the need is, it might be something that they're able to treat remotely, or they will have the student come in. And they're offering all of their normal services to students. It's just a matter of continuing to dedensify campus, so they would have to schedule the appointment that way.
Provost Bell, there's a question about the new immersive courses. Could you give an example of what that'll look like and how it'll be different than semester-long courses?
Sure. So a standard semester-long course meets for 3 hours of class time, and then there's an expectation of about 6 hours of out-of-class time, and that meets over a 14-week period. Our new immersive classes will meet for 7 weeks with 6 hours of class time per week, and then a little bit more out-of-class time per week as well. And what it enables is like a really concentrated effort on a particular topic. So faculty have changed their syllabi to really focus deep into a particular area, as opposed to sort of a broad overview. And so not just is the content different, but the delivery of the content will be different. And some of those courses will be offered in consecutive kind of twice a week for 3 hours. Some of those classes will be offered over 4 days. Faculty had some choice to mix and match, but the bottom line is it's just double the amount of class instruction over half the amount of time.
That's great. And given our announcement about going remote, are class schedules changing? Are they staying pretty much the same?
Class schedules are staying the same. As I said before, when we were going to have half of our students on campus, all of our classes were going to be offered in a remote mode in which some students would participate in class. So nothing has really changed from the delivery perspective. Of course, a lot has changed from the perspective of sort of gaining and benefiting from our wonderful students on campus.
So the Alumni Circles, there's a couple of parents who've asked a question about that. Dean Greenidge, maybe you can speak to that. So the Alumni Circles are open to all students, right? Not just first years. And how can students express interest in being part of it?
They're open to all students. We have reached out to our new students through the Nsop Newsletter. I believe our student life team has a separate newsletter for upperclassmen, and that's where students can express, continuing students can express interest. If I'm not telling you the truth about that, I will be sending an email out as we get closer to the start of the semester for all students with all kinds of updates. And I will be sure, even if I am telling you the truth, to make sure that we include information about that. I know that those are really important for our students and their families.
And on the topic of alumni and connecting, could you talk either Provost Bell or Dean Greenidge about Beyond Barnard and some of the virtual fairs we'll be doing, connecting students to internships, to students who are seniors looking for jobs?
I'm happy to, if you'd like. Beyond Barnard is kind of our one-stop shop for student employment, for internships, for all kinds of opportunities. And so Beyond Barnard will host this year a virtual opportunities fair where we'll have more than 50 employers and an equal number of graduate institutions represented. Registration is actually already available and open to students. And the opportunities fair, for those of you who haven't attended it before, features opportunities for students to connect with alumni in small group settings. And it also has a keynote panel discussion on a topic of interest on advancing diversity or equity or inclusion in the workplace is, I think, the focus for this year. Employers will continue to conduct virtual on-campus interviews so that doesn't change. And we've actually expanded the number of internship grants available to students to help them pursue interesting avenues to supplement their curriculum.
And I will say that we're really proud of the statistic that within 6 months of graduation, over 90% of our students are in jobs or in graduate school. That continues actually to be the case as we move into this year. And we know so many students are thinking about some of our 5-year programs with Columbia, in public health and international relations, in engineering, some of our bridge programs with the law school and the business school. Beyond Barnard's a great place to go to look to find out about those programs. It's a really unique aspect of Barnard. So we have several questions about how students can get their textbooks and course materials and what faculty are going to be doing to make sure students, regardless of where they are, have access to that. Provost Bell, do you want to speak to that?
Sure, we'll be providing detailed information on that, but as always, that'll be made available through Blaze, our library services. And individual faculty members will be corresponding with students about the details of how to obtain their requisite, textbooks, materials, etc. But they're hard at work in the library, and all that will be forthcoming shortly.
So thank you. I know there's been some great questions. I hope we've answered some of them. Let me end by saying that this is a time that is unexpected. I think none of us expected to be in the middle of a global pandemic. We're learning, but we're doing it the Barnard way. We're stepping up to the challenge. We are focusing on how we can actually help affect change. And I can't imagine or think of a more important time to be developing the next generation of young women who are going to go out and change the world. And we are going to do it in the most spectacular way. And I'm really so excited for the year ahead. So I know you might have more questions and want to know some of the links and information that was provided. So we'll put that up on the screen after this. And I know Dean Greenidge will be sending out information tomorrow to students about the semester contingency form, and we'll make sure to get the rest of your questions answered. So thank you so much. And we're really very excited about classes starting September 8th.